Good morning, brothers and sisters. Doug White down here in Alabama. Peace and love to everybody out there. Got this little paper I want to read this morning. It's just one little sheet of paper here. I used to call this little poem, this little paper, I used to call it fill in the blank church. Fill in the blank means put your name in here if it fits, you know. So I see different orders of God's people, and they get on television and they say they believe God's book, and then they end up conforming to the world. Say, brother and sister, say God's people are conforming to the world when they believe these lies, the world system over God's book. And so that's why I felt like I should write this little paper. So they claim to believe God's book, but in actuality, they go along with the world system when it comes to our cosmology and the different space programs that they just believe everything that comes down the road instead of believing God's book. But then they get on there and act like they're all in on what the book says. And I say, everybody needs to just pack up and go home if they're going to ignore these very clear passages of Scripture. But anyway, let me just read it to you. Put it out there again. And I'm calling it, they claim to believe God's book. One time I called it here at Fill in the Blank Church, but people didn't understand what I was talking about, so I changed the name of it. They claim to believe God's book. We believe the Bible here at Fill in the Blank Church. We believe every word of it, and we only practice or teach what Scripture authorizes here at Fill in the Blank Church. We do not shrink from declaring the whole counsel of God here at Fill in the Blank Church. Beloved, that is all well and good, but I just need you to answer a couple of questions for me. Did Joshua bid the sun and moon to stand still, or did he command the earth to stop spinning? I find it quite odd that most of the modern day supposed ministers of the gospel choose to avoid this text. And if they do mention it, they totally ignore the undeniable reality that if Joshua did command the sun and moon to stand still, which I believe he did, then most of God's people in the whole world are believing a lie. Oh, they'll put Mr. Darwin's theory in the trash can of our false science history, and well, they should. But when it comes to this obvious, colossal elephant in the room with them, they turn a blind eye. Sad to say that from our childhood, this unproven, devilish deception of a spinning ball earth has been taught as fact in virtually all of the public and private schools of our land, and the so-called Christian schools as well, who claim to believe God's book. So there's that little paper that I wrote. I want to get it back out there because so many people get on television everywhere else and act as if they believe God's book, but then when it comes to these real clear passages, they say, oh yeah, I believe these old scientists over here, but what they thought, I'm not going to believe what's written in the book. And I think it's kind of hypocritical if you ask this old boy down here in Alabama. But I'll get off here and just let this be this paper. I'm putting it back out there again. They claim to believe God's book, when in actuality, they might as well pack up and go home because they're being conformed to this world if they're believing this lie. Peace and love from this old boy down here in Alabama, and I hope I get back with you later on.